Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. For this episode, we will be continuing our brief look at the Warhammer 40,000 timeline. While this video will focus more on humanity's actions, certain important Xenos events will also be documented throughout. So, without further ado, let's continue. The following account is a continuation of certain events from M31, one of the most eventful and detailed periods within human history, detailing the Horus Heresy and beyond. Because of how intricate and detailed the events of this time were, only certain key events will be mentioned, which in turn will be expanded upon in future videos. In addition, there is also a small chance for potential inaccuracies of specific dates due to contradicting sources. For previous events that occurred during M31, make sure to check out our previous video. 010 M31. The Solar War begins. The Alpha Legion detonates a freighter in Terra's orbit, showering the world with debris, killing millions in the process. The Alpha Legion then strike against the world of Pluto, a surveillance world with high strategic value. The Imperial Fists, led by their Primarch Rogel Dawn, launches a counter-assault against the traitors. Dawn slays the Primarch Alfarius in the conflict, causing the surviving Alpha Legion forces to retreat. Omegon, the twin brother of Alfarius, takes his brother's name and assumes full command over the Alpha Legion. A small group of Astartes from the Salamander's Legion braves the perils of the Ruin Storm in order to return the lifeless body of their Primarch, Vulcan, to his homeworld of Nocturne. A contingent of Death Guard, led by Captain Lestygon, attempt to obtain the lifeless body of Vulcan in order to gain the favour of their Primarch, Mortarion. Lestygon's forces fail before attempting to destroy Nocturne by unleashing scores of virus bombs upon the world. However, this also fails, forcing the traitors to launch a planetary assault, but they are repelled by the Loyalists. Vulcan is unexpectedly revived shortly after the culmination of the battle, due to the sacrifice of First Captain Artilus Numion acting on the advice of a soul shard of Magnus the Red. The war within the webway grows greater in its intensity, forcing the Emperor of Mankind to intervene. The Sisters of Silence order that the souls of 1,000 Psykers are sacrificed to power the Golden Throne in the Emperor's absence. The Emperor's presence manages to briefly stem the tide of the demonic assault, culminating in his battle against the demon drach'nyen. Unable to destroy drach'nyen, the Emperor binds the demon into the body of the custodian, Endymion, before ordering that Endymion flee into the depths of the webway as fast as he can. The Iron Warriors Legion manages to escape from the Eye of Terra after being betrayed and abandoned by their allies within the Emperor's Children. This results in Perturabo learning of an artifact known as the Black Oculus upon the world of Tallarn. As the Iron Warriors reach Tallarn, the world is then subsequently bombarded with virus bombs. While the world's ecology is destroyed, the majority of its loyalist military forces survive, having taken shelter in vast underground bunkers. This results in the Battle of Tallarn, which became the largest armoured conflict in human history for close to 10,000 years, though the Iron Warriors are ultimately defeated by the Loyalists. The Eldari Farseer, Eldrad Ulthran, along with the Loyalist word-bearer Bathuza Narek, begin hunting down and destroying various members of the Xenos organization known as the Cabal, while Vulcan begins to make his way towards Terra by traversing the depths of the webway. 011 M31. The White Scars Legion, pursued by a combined Emperor's Children and Death Guard fleet, would discover the long-abandoned Dark Glass space station. As the Loyalists prepared to make a final stand against the traitor legions, the Stormseer Targetai Yasuge would give his life to open a webway gate through which the White Scars would flee and finally make their way towards Terra. The Night Lord's Legion fractures, turning from a once comprehensive fighting force to little more than a loose group of separate warbands. Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels, continues his hunt for Conrad Kurz, Primarch of the Night Lords, throughout the realm of Ultramar. Kurz is eventually captured and taken prisoner by Loyalist forces, interred within the dungeons of the Dark Angels' flagship, the Invincible Reason. Rabute Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines Legion, along with Sanguinius, Primarch of the Blood Angels, and Lionel Johnson, receive word that Terra still stands and that the Emperor still lives. Imperium Secundus is abolished, and the combined Ultramarines, Blood Angels and Dark Angels fleets begin mobilizing towards Terra, and attempt to break through the Ruin Storm. Luther of the Dark Angels Legion begins instigating a full revolt upon the Dark Angels' homeworld of Caliban. Leman Russ and the Space Wolves Legion finally arrive within the Sol system to join the Imperial Fists and the White Scars upon Terra. The Nostramos system is scoured of all life, with the perpetrators speculated to be a group of exiled Raven Guard known as the Ashen Claws. One of the shattered soul fragments of the Thousand Sons Primarch, Magnus the Red, is discovered upon Terra, and Malcador the Sigillite implants it into the Loyalist Thousand Son, Reviol Arvida, in order to save his life from the genetic curse of the flesh change. Arvida is then transformed into a powerful being named Janus. The Second Battle of Davin takes place, as the Blood Angels, Ultramarines and Dark Angels force their way through the Ruin Storm, resulting in the total destruction of the world. Davin's annihilation created a breach through the Ruin Storm, but this breach was anticipated by Horus, who had it blockaded by a vast Traitor Legion armada. The Ultramarines and Dark Angels fleets engage Horus's forces in order to allow the Blood Angels to exit the Ruin Storm and reach Terra. The Dark Angels and Ultramarines would eventually drive off the Traitor fleet, before continuing their own much slower route to the Throne World. Circa 012 M31. Traitor forces make anchor within the Chrisolien system, in order to enact repairs and resupply before making their final push towards Beta Garman, the gateway to the Sol system. Against Rogel Dawn's wishes, Leman Russ leads the Space Wolves away from Terra in an attempt to destroy Horus with a sudden and decisive blow. After undergoing a spiritual journey and then learning of the War Master's location, Russ begins to make his way to the Mechanicum-held Chrisolien system. The Space Wolves take the Sons of Horus Legion by surprise, and Leman Russ, with hundreds of other Space Wolf Astartes, manage to board the Vengeful Spirit, the flagship of Horus himself. During the course of the battle, the tech acolytum of the Mechanicum, Belisarius Call, murders his superior, Magus Domina Hester Aspertius Sigma Sigma, after learning of her defection to the War Master's cause. Call then obtains her intelligence core and installs it into himself, gaining all of her knowledge, including that in relation to cloning. Horus and Russ engage one another in a bitter duel, and Horus suffers a grievous wound after being impaled by the spear of the Emperor wielded by Russ in the battle. Russ hesitates to kill Horus, who then mauls the Space Wolf Primarch. Russ barely manages to escape with his life, and the Space Wolves Legion suffers horrendous casualties. The Space Wolves then flee, but are pursued by forces led by Sons of Horus' first captain, Ezekiel Abaddon, comprised of warriors from the Sons of Horus, Alpha Legion, World Eaters, Thousand Sons and those elements of the Imperial army that had sided with Horus. Horus enters a comatose state due to the severity of his wounds. The Space Wolves become crippled as a legion, and Leman Russ would fall into a comatose state due to the wounds he had suffered, leaving Bjorn the Fell-Handed as the acting legion commander. the Space Wolves would receive aid from the remnants of the Raven Guard Legion and their Primarch, Corvus Corax. Corax would convince Bjorn to abandon the notion of a heroic last stand, and the Loyalists would escape. 013 M31. Rogal Dorn commits forces from the Collegia Titanica, Legio Skitarii and Imperial Army, as well as several Astartes from his own legion, to reinforce the world of Beta Garman from the inevitable Traitor assault. Lorgar, the Primarch of the Wordbearers Legion, becomes aware of Horus's physical condition, and in the War Master's stead orders that the demon Primarchs Angron and Fulgrim be brought back into the fold to prepare for the inevitable assault on Terra. Lorgar himself travels to Fulgrim's pleasure world within the warp, while Perturabo is tasked with retrieving Angron and the remainder of the World Eaters Legion, who have now fallen almost completely to the worship of the Chaos God, Khorne. Horus is restored to full health thanks to a ritual enacted by the War Master's equerry, Malagurst the Twisted. Traitor forces begin amassing upon the world of Ulanor before making their push towards Beta Garman. The Traitor legions eventually break through the Imperium's defences at Beta Garman, and finally make their way into the Sol system. As the Death Guard Legion travels through the warp, they become afflicted with the Destroyer Plague. Callus Typhon, the first captain of the Death Guard, who allowed the fleet to become stranded and thus afflicted, becomes the host of the Destroyer Plague and is reborn as Typhus, the herald of the god Nurgle. To alleviate his legion's suffering, Mortarion in desperation prays to Nurgle. Nurgle answers the Primarch's prayers, and the Plague God becomes the patron god of the Legion. 014 M31. The Siege of Terra commences. The Traitor legions besiege the planet for over 55 days, but the defenders refuse to surrender. The Emperor's Children Legion abandons the siege of the Imperial Palace and instead begins to raid the civilian population for slaves, an attack so violent that it turned the population of Terra against Astartes for millennia and saw them almost being banned from setting foot upon the planet ever again. Loyalist forces managed to break through the Traitor rearguard and proceed with all haste to Terra in order to reinforce the defenders. Horus lowers the shields upon his flagship and invites the Emperor to face him in battle, though his exact reasons for doing so are not fully known. The Emperor, along with Sanguinius, Rogal Dorn and a contingent of Astartes, custodians, and soldiers of the Imperial Army, teleport on board the ship, but become separated during transport. Malcador the Sigillite, in the Emperor's absence, attempts to harness the energies of the Golden Throne to prevent the warp rift opened by Magnus the Red from enveloping Terra. Sanguinius finds Horus first, but is slain by the War Master. The death of Sanguinius causes a psychic backlash throughout the Blood Angels Legion, briefly turning the entire Legion into frothing berserkers who launch a savage counterattack against the traitors. The Emperor then faces Horus in battle, but holds back from wielding his full power and skill, and is subsequently dominated during the fight. Thanks to the sacrifice of a heroic individual, who some claim to be the soldier Alanius Pius, the Emperor manages to defeat Horus, slaying him with his powers. Rogal Dorn arrives upon the bridge soon after, and brings the Emperor back to the Imperial Palace, interring him into the Golden Throne, where it would act forevermore as the Emperor's life support system. The body of Malcador the Sigillite is destroyed by the strain of keeping the warp in check from the Golden Throne, turning to dust as it is removed and replaced by the Emperor's. Ezekiel Abaddon tears the lightning claw known as the Talon from the War Master's body, and orders for the Legion to retreat. Abaddon would then go into a self-imposed exile along with the Vengeful Spirit soon after. Distraught that his Legion couldn't make it to Terra in time to save the Emperor, Lionel Johnson, orders that the Dark Angel's Legion return to their homeworld of Caliban. They become victim to a surprise attack from the traitor Dark Angels known as the Fallen under the command of Luther. Johnson leads an assault upon the planet as his fleet continues to maintain an orbital bombardment. Caliban is eventually destroyed, with the largest surviving fragment serving as the foundations for their new fortress monastery, the Rock. Luther is captured and placed into stasis, but Lionel Johnson mysteriously vanishes and has not been seen since. Rabute Guilliman, the now acting Lord Commander of the Imperium, devises an idea to prevent a conflict such as the Horus Heresy from ever happening again. To this end, the Primarch proposes what he dubs the Codex Astartes, where the Space Marine legions would be split down into smaller chapters. In addition, Guilliman also begins the implementation of a secret contingency plan with the now Archmagus Dominus Belisarius Call, should the Imperium face certain destruction once more, the Primaris Project. The Ultramarines pursue the Alpha Legion to Escrador, and Guilliman seemingly kills Omegon, the twin Primarch brother of Alfarius. Despite the apparent death of their Primarch, the Alpha Legion continue to battle on, eventually forcing the Ultramarines to return to orbit and begin an orbital bombardment of the world. The Battle of the Iron Cage. Perturabo orchestrates a trap for Rogel Dawn and baits the Imperial Fists to face him and his legion. The Imperial Fists suffer horrendous casualties over the span of 3 weeks before being rescued by the Ultramarines. Perturabo then has the gene seed of the slain Imperial Fists sacrificed to the Chaos Gods, who then ascend the Primarch to demonhood, becoming a demon prince of Chaos Undivided. 017 M31. The Great Scouring. Loyalist forces begin their reconquest of the Imperium, while the traitor legions, one by one, are driven into the warp rift known as the Eye of Terra, which then serves as their prison for centuries to come. 021 M31. The Second Founding. The 9 Loyalist legions are split into smaller chapters, with each chapter to exceed no more than 1,000 Astartes. The Grey Knights are founded in secret at this time, and Janus is declared as the chapter's first Supreme Grand Master, though preparations had been made by Malcador before the Siege of Terra. Corvus Corax secludes himself away within the Ravenspire within the Fortress Monastery of the Raven Guard chapter. 022 M31. Corax emerges from his isolation and commandeers a single ship before travelling into the Eye of Terra. His last recorded words are simply nevermore. He eventually reaches the world of Sikaris, which was claimed by the Wordbearers Legion. Corax soon encounters and battles against Lorgar, who had also become a demon prince of Chaos Undivided, before the Wordbearers Primarch is forced to retreat. 034 M31. Rogel Dawn leads a defense against one of the earliest Black Crusades. The Primarch vanishes during the ensuing conflict, with only his hand being recovered by his chapter. 081 M31. Jagatai Khan vanishes whilst pursuing a Drukhari raiding party through a webway gate. 121 M31. The Ultramarines and several of their successor chapters clash against the Emperor's Children Legion at the Battle of Thessala. Rabute Guilliman is mortally wounded by Fulgrim and interred within stasis. 209 M31. Leman Russ, along with the entirety of his Wolf Guard, save for Bjorn the Fell-Handed, leave for the Eye of Terra to pursue an unknown objective. 10 years after this event, with no sign of their Primarch returning, Bjorn is made into the first Great Wolf of the chapter. Bjorn then announces the Great Hunt in order to locate their Primarch, but the chapter fails in its quest. 300 years later, Bjorn is mortally wounded in battle and interred within the sarcophagus of a dreadnought. unknown date M31. Konrad Kurz allows himself to be assassinated by the Kalidas assassin, Mashen. The Sisters of Silence are disbanded, and are forced to live within remote convents upon distant worlds far from civilization. The Traitor Legions begin a series of internecine conflicts, with most of their ire being focused against the Sons of Horus Legion. Horus's body is stolen by the Emperor's Children Legion from the demon world of Malium. The Thousand Sun sorcerer, Iskandar Kaon, along with a ragtag group of other traitor legionnaires, locate the vengeful spirit and first Captain Abaddon of the Sons of Horus. Abaddon then begins mustering forces, laying the foundations for an entirely new legion, known as the Black Legion, from the ashes of the Sons of Horus. Abaddon's forces launch an assault upon the Emperor's Children's stronghold of Harmony. They discover that the apothecary Fabius Bile had created clones of several of the Primarchs, including a perfect clone of Horus. Abaddon manages to slay this clone, however, and the remaining clones, with the exception of a single clone of Fulgrim, are also destroyed. Abaddon's Black Legion succeeds in breaking out of the Eye of Terra, before immediately coming into conflict with the Black Templars chapter. Abaddon slays their chapter master Sigismund in combat, before declaring the start of the Long War. Soon after this, Abaddon, now known as the Despoiler, acquires from the world of Uralan the demon blade known as drach'nyen. And that concludes the events of M31. Join us next time for events occurring from M32 onwards. If you liked this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for more content. To those who are new to 40k, we hope you learned something. So, leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.